out for a little drive today. We're on Oregon Highway 6 and we're heading over to the coast, and then we'll go down to Lincoln City where we're going to meet up with a friend. And as usual, when we're driving, we're usually talking on some kind of subject, and today we started talking about some of the pet peeves that we have that seem to continuously happen, or at least because we drive so much that we see these things repeatedly, and we thought we'd share a little bit of those with you today.
Yeah, we come up with about 5 or 6 of them, and it could start raining. It's off and on clouds and then blue sky and then rain, so we thought doing this in the truck would be a good option.
Yeah, a little bit different. First off, I want to say that we definitely don't dwell on these things all the time. We try to, not get ourselves in a bad mood or anything like that, but they do keep happening over and over, so they're kind of ever present as full-time, travelers. We see them so often that they kind of get embedded in our being, I guess, a little bit. One of the ones that gets to me quite a bit that drivers do is when they're merging on the freeway, they don't seem to get the idea of what merging means, in my opinion. And this isn't everybody, obviously, or we have chaos completely, but it definitely happens a lot where the person getting on the freeway doesn't understand that the merge ramp is for them to get up to speed and then to enter the freeway. Now, I want to say that if someone's coming onto the freeway and I'm in the right lane, I will do everything possible to be courteous and get over into the left lane. Sometimes there's not a left lane, and sometimes there's people there. In that case, it's up to the driver entering the freeway or highway, roadway, whatever, in my opinion, to either go faster than us or slower than us. Yeah. They cannot have the spot that I'm currently occupying. Yeah. So that's something that just seems to happen over and over. I'll look over and there will be somebody just right just beside us and keeping up with us instead of going ahead of us or getting behind us. And I will try to accommodate in any way that I can, be as courteous as I can to let them in. But if I've got 40 people behind me, it's not really right for me to affect the lives of 40 people behind me for one person that doesn't really get the idea of merging.
If we're towing the fifth wheel, there just might not be enough room or enough time to get over. So, if you're coming on the freeway, like Bernie said, faster or slower.
Yeah, you can't have my spot, sorry.
A driving pet peeve that really gets to me is something that's just really simple to do, but a lot of people, for whatever reason, just don't take the time to do it, and that is signaling.
Or indicating, as they say in the UK.
If you're going to turn, just click on that blinker. It's just a really easy thing to do, and it's very difficult for other drivers when they don't know if you're going to go straight, if you're going to turn, whatever. And then something that kind of goes along with the signaling is making U-turns. In some places there'll be, some cities, big intersections where U-turns are okay, but if there's a big line of traffic and you don't know if somebody's making a U-turn or not, they're going to be entering that intersection and accelerating or not accelerating through it differently, whether they're making just a left turn or making a U-turn. And so something I always thought would be cool if they put some kind of indicator on your vehicle.
We're on a bumpy road, by the way.
Yeah, a special indicator if you were going to make a U-turn instead of just a left turn. So that would really help out, I think.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely, it seems to be one of the easiest things that you can do. I mean, it's just a little movement of the hand over to go to access the left or right blinker. It's really not that difficult, but we see a lot of people that don't do it. So the next one is something that I think many of us experience quite a bit, and I know that people who drive RVs or 18-wheelers or big trucks, any of that kind of thing, probably experience this quite often, and that's people cutting out in front of you. And this comes about a couple different ways. I mean, sometimes it's just people cutting out of a side road, or maybe they're even in a parking lot and they just don't even look. You can tell that they absolutely didn't even know that you were barreling down on them, and they just cut right out in front of you. But another way that this happens is if we're like maybe going to a traffic light, there's a red light that we're about to stop at, and there's cars already stopped in front of us. We have enough room when towing the fifth wheel to come to a stop, and then a little car just cuts right in front of us and takes away that stopping distance. And it seems like no matter how much you try to account for that, it's just an invitation for people to get in there and take up that space.
Somebody will always fill in, even if there's just a little bit of space. When you're trying to maintain that safe stopping distance, it never fails.
Yeah, we've probably, I don't know, experienced this, 100 times a month sometimes. I mean, it's just a really big thing, and we're always like, dude, shocked that even when we're not towing, that they don't see our big black truck coming right at them. And sometimes they do. You'll see them like they're trying to calculate sometimes too. Should I pull out now? And then I don't know, maybe 5 seconds will go by, and then they finally cut out in front of you. And good thing that they think they made it, but the only reason they made it is because I put on the brakes and allowed them in. Had we continued on the regular just speed limit, that we would have collided. So that's something I think that happens quite often.
Another thing that gets to me is people running red lights. Now, we've been in some places where you kind of understand where they're coming from, because if you get stopped at a red light, the red light's going to be seeming an eternity. So if you feel like if you're going to miss that light, you're going to be sitting there and be late to work or whatever. So they'll just run the red light, and that's not only really dangerous, it's really annoying when your light turns green and you have to sit there for 10-15 seconds waiting for people to run the red light so that you can go.
Yeah, some places are worse than others. I'm just going to leave the states nameless, but there's one state that we're in that it's almost continual. And I actually went to a fair one time and spoke with someone who had the traffic light display on a mobile type flatbed, and they were displaying it there at the festival for people to see how they operate and everything. And I talked to that person about how much people run the red lights, and he was well aware of that and felt like they needed to correct something with their system. But like Susan mentioned, some of these lights are so long that people just sit there idling, and it's probably a lot more emissions and all those other kinds of things. And so when it's about to change, there's so many people that go through, and then they continue through when it's red because they just don't want to get stuck at it. Now, there's other places that we go to and drive where they've really got it down right with the lights. If you're approaching a light and there's no one coming from any direction and you have the red, it will sense way back on the sensors that you're approaching, and it will go ahead and give you that green light, green arrow, whatever, or turn to a flashing yellow, whatever it has to do to keep the traffic moving. And it's in stark contrast, and it's just so obvious how great of a job they're doing when they do that. But we just see so many people running red lights
all the time. It's constant. So and it's very dangerous, and that's why there's so many accidents at these big intersections where the long lights are, is because people just don't want to sit there and wait, and they run the light.
Another pet peeve is slow drivers, but more specifically, slow drivers in the passing lane. Now, that's something that there's reasons for it sometimes, and sometimes there's apparently not. I mean, the people are going around on the right continuously. Now, we're towing a fifth wheel at times, and ironically, sometimes we need to pass people because they're going too slow for us to continue on safely. We can't just keep stopping continuously, so we will go around them, but we try to get out of that passing lane immediately to be courteous to other drivers. But
sometimes
doesn't always go that way.
Yeah, you can't always do that. There's some freeways, for example, in California, that the right lane is so bad from so much traffic and so many trucks that you just can't drive your fifth wheel in the right lane, and you have to just get out in the left lane to keep from having your teeth rattling out of your mouth.
Yeah, definitely like washboard, and it's just it's not fun because you're basically putting your RV through an earthquake inside, and we usually sustain some type of little damage of some kind that we're going to have to take care of when we stop, and so that's definitely something that gets to us at times, and we try to do the best that we can to avoid highways like that where we're going to want to opt for that left lane, but sometimes, like Susan said, in California on I-5, for example, the right lane is so tore up that we just have to get out of it at times, and I usually do that only when there's no one for miles around, and I can just get over there, and sometimes I'll see a little car coming up that looks like they're going 80 or 90 miles an hour, so I know what they're going to do, so I just stay in the left lane and they just go passing right by on the right. But otherwise, we just try to be courteous and get out of that lane.
So the last thing that we came up with are those mud flaps and truck doors that are chrome, almost like mirrors. Depending on the direction that you're driving and where the sun's at, sometimes these things are just blinding, and it's really dangerous.
Yeah, we've been behind trucks. The entire back doors were mirror-like, and that can just blind you as a driver. And then some of these, I don't know if they're milk trucks or whatever, but some of these tanker trucks are like really shiny mirror-like chrome, and they're kind of neat if the sun's right. You can see and capture a really good image going by in the back of them as you're just going by. You can see a reflection in it very well, and that's kind of neat. But more often than not, the sun's hitting them and it's causing a reflection, and it can be very dangerous.
Yeah, I don't know what the thinking was behind that design, because even if it's just a little strip on the bottom of the mud flaps, the sun hits that just right and it'll just blind you for a few seconds, and that just seems like it's just not safe to me.
Yeah. Those are some of the pet peeves that Susan and I came up with. I'm sure there's more, but let us know in the comments if any of those are things that you've experienced or that you experience often or not so often, or maybe there's something that we didn't mention that bothers you when you're traveling.
Yeah, so please comment, share, subscribe, and click on that little notification bell.
Thanks for watching.